Okay, so in this little video here, I'm going to sort of go walk through and give you an example of how this worksheet can be completed. Now, for this example, I am going to be using Martin Luther King Jr., mainly because that is just someone that is, first off, not going to be included in this assignment, so it's not going to interfere with anything you're going to be doing. But keep in mind that you should be using the list of historical figures each day that's provided to choose from. Uh, but let's use Martin Luther King here as an example. So first off, for the person's name, this is where we would just type in Martin Luther King Jr. And then we want to find two websites about Martin Luther King Jr. So let's go and pull up a site here. So if we were to simply type in Martin Luther King Jr. into Google here, we can find some websites. So the first one, let's go with this one from nobelprize.org. If we uh, click on this, we can read through it. There's some great information here. And so this looks like a pretty good one. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to move it down here so you can see. I'm going to copy the URL and we'll just put that in for website number one. Okay, so great. Let's go ahead and find a second website here. And so we'll go back to our Google search and scroll down, and any one of these could really work. We have history.com, we have biography.com. Let's go ahead and click on biography.com here. And again, just checking over things. It looks like has some pretty useful information to read about. A lot of information here. So this is a huge source. Probably wouldn't even have time to read through all of this, but there's definitely some good information we can skim through and find there. So we can copy that URL, and just to kind of look through, I mean, if we were to go to history.com, for example, and maybe you like this one a little bit better. Maybe if you look at this and say, well, it's again, very long article here. Uh, but perhaps if you like that one better, you could use it. But main thing is you want two different websites. And so let's go back to our page here, and I'll just paste in that biography.com. And so question number 3 is looking at which website did you find more reliable? Consider why. Consider URL, the organization, the author's background, etc. So if we look here, just right off the bat, if we're looking at the URL, we have nobelprize.org. So this is an organization, and biography.com is just going to be a commercial website here. So already, if we were say uh, website 1 is from an organization. Noted by the .org URL. And let's see what else we can find about this. So let's look at nobelprize.com or .org here. And so if we were to go back and let's pull up this website again. There's a few things we can make note of here. So if we scroll down, it has a bibliography for all of its sources where all of this information is coming from. And remember, we also want to know who wrote this, and it says this was written at the time of the award, first published in a book series. It was later edited and published here. And so if we were to sort of click on this and look, we can see that this is from the Nobel Prize organization, which is a pretty big deal. This is a pretty big organization, right? And so Excuse me. So if we go back to our worksheet here, we can say website 1 is from an organization noted by the URL. Um, and based on the website, the organization is credible. And Nobel Prize is known worldwide. So maybe that's something we want to note as well. Anything that could make this valuable. But then also remember, we said that this website also has all of its sources listed. And so those are some of the reasons why we looked at earlier this year how a website can be determined whether or not it is reliable or not. So that sort of checks out. And if we were to compare it to the uh, biography.com, and we could perhaps go back, and we may find that biography.com has a lot of the same type of stuff here. Um, but it doesn't have all of its websites necessarily listed, all of its sources, and so it's an okay website, but it's not as good as NobelPrize.com, and so that's why we'll stick with Nobel Prize being the most reliable one. All right, so when we're comparing your two websites, in what ways did they present similar information? This is going to require you to begin to read through some of the websites, the both websites that you have chosen. And so just real quick to kind of take a look at this. So in this nobelprize.com website here, we can read about this. And really the first about this part right here is the only part that's really talking about his childhood. Um, it, both are going to be talking about some of his big accomplishments within the church, and then also within, it mentions his "I Have a Dream" speech and what he's done for the civil rights movement. And so, if we were to go back, and I mean, we can also pull up on biography.com here, and we can find stuff about his early life. Um, we can go down, see his education, and then we see he's talking about his influence with the civil rights movement. So when we're answering this question, in what ways are the sites familiar, we can say uh, they both start with his childhood and provide us with many facts and details about his work with the civil rights movement. And so again, we're explaining what's similar here, and we're just providing a sentence um, and how these topics are related to each other in both articles that we read. I mean, both of these are about Martin Luther King Jr., so it's good that it's provided. We could look in if we wanted to provide even more detail there on maybe a particular event that took place, but we'll keep it simple for now. And then the second part here says to explain in what ways did they present different information. So if you noticed, one of the big differences here, and again, this is going to be based upon what you're reading, and so the website you look at may be a lot different. But this website of biography.com here actually goes into a lot of detail about his childhood. A lot of detail, actually. And so, I mean, we're still going through his childhood, even here So his high school, there's a lot of information here about his childhood. And this website, I mean, we could scroll and scroll and scroll, and we would still be scrolling. There's a lot of information on biography.com. Whereas we go to nobelprize.org, and again, as I pointed out earlier, I mean, we have maybe this part of this first paragraph talking about his childhood. So not as much information here. So if we were to compare these two websites, again, just sort of keeping this very basic for this example, we could say something along the lines of uh, let's say nobelprize.org uh, does not go into as much detail as biography.com in regards to MLK's childhood. And so that's one of the topics there that we see is much different. Uh, you can look, maybe there's an inconsistency. So if there was something in regards to maybe the dates didn't line up, maybe this is just a hypothetical. Maybe you could say something like uh, biography.com states he attended college in, let's say, 1950, while NobelPrize.org uh, says he attended in, you know, say 1949. And these are obviously made up just for this example. But if that's something that you came across where you see dates aren't lining up, dates are a little bit different, you can mention that there. All right, and then the last three questions are in regards to the person themselves, and so you can look at and read those articles and write a sentence or two talking about what is, a major struggle or obstacle that they had to overcome. So in this, perhaps for Martin Luther King Jr., maybe we read something about how the prejudice that he's faced. Whatever it is that you come and read across, you can add it in there. The next question: what were some major accomplishments this person achieved? And so there, perhaps we want to look at Nobel Prize. Maybe we want to look at any sort of award. Maybe we want to look at the fact that the Civil Rights Act in 1964 was passed. So whatever it is that that person achieved or is credited with, you can add in there. And the last question: what was something you found interesting or inspirational about this person? Explain why. And that's going to be uh, up to you. That's your personal experience with what you've learned about this person. And maybe you didn't find this person inspirational. You can mention why and explain why that is. But that's how this worksheet is going to be completed. Now, for Monday, so the first day, we're going to be looking. The list will include influential Asian Americans, and then we have on Tuesday, I'll present a new list with 4 different people that will be influential African Americans. Be able to select from those 4. So you're only doing this one page at a time. And so make sure that you're just working at one page at a time. And each day I will be announcing what the next set of historical figures will be. And there's 3 pages altogether. So very briefly, we just went through and completed one one of these pages here for the day. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. Ask me either in class or you can send me an email. You can also come to my office hours with any questions you may have.